Hey, it's Heidi. Here working with your 3 Reads protocol. I realize this is something you talked about, and I'm really happy to support your math leaders in this effort and follow up with what they learned and what you've learned about what's happening at Brookside. So this is a 3rd grade question. Yes, 3rd grade. So this is our 3rd grade question. This is the 3 Reads protocol. You all have this, okay? So then if I want to go next, I just tap it? No, I don't. Let's see, maybe you can, there we go. Okay, great, thank you. It's always a group effort, and this is not edited on purpose, so you can see what this is like in reality, right? Okay. All right, so here's our context. Also, I want to let you know that this is a question from 2024, the 3rd grade assessment. So no surprise here on the question. All right, so our first read is to read for context. So I'm sure by now you've read it as I've been talking. I'm not going to read to you. I'm going to pause for a moment and let you read it. Okay, so now I'm going to assume that Gail here she's earning these 32 tickets, right? So in other words, what's happening? Because our kids, and it's important at this point, and if you haven't already, that's okay, because I know at Brookside they hide the numbers, and I get hiding the numbers maybe when we're first starting, but we need to let them see the whole question and then tease out what they need, right? So in this case, we're saying, okay, what's happening here? She's got tickets to an event, all right? What's she doing with those tickets? She's buying 4 prizes. So what are the things like, what is this about? This is about Gail, okay? And she's earning tickets. 1, she earns tickets. Wow, that's terrible writing. I'm sure your writing is better than mine. 1, she earns tickets. 2, what's the next thing she does? She buys prizes with her tickets. Whoops, B-U-Y-S, buys prizes. And finally, what's our question? Our question is about each prize. So those are the things that we're going to talk about in our first read. Just the context, establishing who it's about, Gail. I heard today in my walkthroughs a character, so this is our only character is Gail. What is she doing? She's earning tickets, she's buying prizes with those tickets, and we need to know what she spends for each ticket. Okay, so now the next slide. Oh, thank you. Love it. Okay, so the next now we have to understand quantities. Okay, so the first thing we said is Gail and her tickets. What did she do? She bought 32 tickets, and that's the whole amount. So the first thing I would do is I would say, okay, Gail has, right, 32 tickets. That's what she earned, or earned 32 tickets. We don't necessarily have to write all that out with kids. I do realize that modeling is our next slide. I might think about, how would I model this? What's she doing with her 32 tickets? She's buying, prizes, earning these prizes. How many? 4. What do we know about these 4 prizes? That's the same number. So I would go right to a bar model or a tape diagram for this. So there's 2 ways that you could draw this, and again, this is for you, not for the kids, so I'm going to write both ways. I could start out with 32 tickets here, and then look at what that would look like if I put them into four bins, if you will, right? Or I could show the box this way, where it's 32 tickets, but I'm going to do this. The whole thing is 32, and then I split it into 4 equal groups. So you have some choices here. I mean, that looks minor, but for kids, that's a big difference. And then what do we do with that? It's the same. So there's the 4 boxes, right? And the same number in each box. When they get into 4th grade, we can talk about this being the letter to represent that same amount, but either way that works. Next slide. We can skip over the modeling actually for this one. Because if you're doing equal groups. Oh good, this is it.
So this was still the 2nd step.
This is still the 2nd step. So we answered a lot of these questions, but can you think of other questions? This is a great thing to think about with this. I love this and talking about it, but you can see what we were looking at before. Pause. All right. And now here we are at our third. This is where we're finally going to do some work. So here we are, and we're going to focus on the question, right? So what is the question here? So the question, I'm going to go with, let's say, I mean, another way we could write this also would be 32 like this, right? And then here's our box underneath it. Be careful I'm not blocking your view of what's going on. And there's a lot of ways we could break this up. So we could think about this as we could go through our 4 facts. So here's where we're dealing with a solution in the process. We know these need to be equal amounts. How do we go about that? Depending on what level or what cohort you're working with your third grade scholars, I mean, if it's appropriate to start counting out till you get to 32 one by one, because that's who you're working with, that's really okay. That's really okay. It's not bad. But now at this point, hopefully we've been working with our facts, so we should be able to know that what 4 fact gives us 32, well, that's 4 times 8, right? So I know if I put 8 in each of these boxes, and how you get there is a lot of different ways. I'm not saying this is the only way. I'm saying I don't want this video to be 50 minutes long. So, okay, so now I've got the bar model and I've done that. At some point I can show either, and by the way, all of this work should be okay, and we're going to get to equations in a minute. I could say 32 divided by, I could say 4 times something, but again, especially working with kids for whom sequencing is important, where do we start? We're starting with 32. What is the change? The change is I'm doing something, which is the division aspect of this. And then in the end, how do I, each prize, I would look back at my picture and say, okay, I can do 8. However, we have a beautiful slide deck, next slide to this, so go ahead and clear my ink. And it's lovely. Okay, now we have this. And this comes from which part are we solving for? This is super important, and this comes actually right out of the standards. So are we solving for the beginning? No, we have the beginning. So there's where my 32 is going to go. Oh, we have a change, right? What's happening? We're not solving for the change. We know we're dividing it into 4 equal groups based on our picture. So now we have the unknown, what's in each group, and that would be the 8. Okay, so that's our result. That's what's unknown. So what are we solving for in this case? We're solving for the unknown. But keep in mind that if a child decided to go 4 times what gives me 32 for their thing, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, that's one way to do it. But knowing this language, and we may honestly, going forward, we may think about this. This is definitely something they do at Brookside, but we may need to do some work here because there's a slight twist to the language when you have different options for multiplication and division, or different ways it can be laid out. But honestly, this is a really good idea. What's happening first? How is it changing? You know, which includes the operation as well as the number, and then our result. All right, so thank you.